Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you internet students. This is a quick tip Comm 101 on research in the big three. And what do I mean by the big three? Well, when you are doing research, especially on the internet, because y'all use the internet, right? Everybody's almost instantly the first place people go to now is the internet, and there is an amazing amount of information out there. You can in another slide, when I'm doing this on face to face, I talk about how many gigabytes, I think it is, it says zettabytes there are of information on the internet. Basically it comes down to there are over 200 billion years worth of music and data stored on the internet right now. Not music specifically. It's an analogy of, there's, if you were just listening to music and all the data on the internet was music related, there'd be more than 200 billion years of music available right now. So there's all of this stuff that's out there on the internet about any topic you want to look up. And what's really neat is every single source on the internet is absolutely factual and true, right? No, absolutely not. And so part of the problem with using internet sources is you have to really start analyzing the source you're looking at. Let's say most people use Google, and there's all kinds of issues with Google and the way that the algorithm works. But let's say you Google a topic, you get all these choices. They are specifically picked for you based off of your previous searches and all of this other stuff that gets thrown into the algorithm. And you might get some good sources. You might get some websites that have really questionable stuff, really out there ideas, facts that aren't true. All of this stuff is out there. And one of the errors that a lot of people have with the internet is that if it's on the internet, it must be true. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. So when you are on a website and you are looking at some data and you think you might want to use it for your speech to support your ideas, there are three things you want to make sure you look at and you can confirm on that. Or if you can't confirm it on all three of these, you probably don't want to use it. So the first one is authorship. Who wrote what you're reading? Somewhere on good web sources, you will find the author's name. And most of the time, it will be hyperlinked, or it will have their credentials written down there so that you can go find out who this person is, so that it's not just some random person sitting in their home writing about astronomy, and you're doing a speech on astronomy and this person put up a whole bunch of stuff and you want to use it, but you go looking and this person has absolutely no background in astronomy. They're just babbling stuff. And there's a lot of websites out there that are like that. That's what blogs kind of are, is people's opinions about things. Well, those are opinions, not facts. So always find out authorship. Who wrote it? Who wrote what you want to use? Can you confirm that they actually are credible? Remember, you're establishing your credibility in your speeches. Are your sources credible? Can you confirm that if they're talking about astronomy, they're educated in astronomy, they've worked in astronomy, or whatever the subject may be? Do they know what they're talking about? And then the other thing is, are they biased? Is it someone who is presenting their point of view only? Even if they are, you might still want to use some of that information to say, according to Joe Blow, this is true, but they're strong believers in this side of this topic, and you bring other information in from other views of the same topic. But you always want to know who wrote what it is you're thinking about using, and are they a credible source? And if they're not a credible source, or you can't find who wrote it, don't use it. You're much better off just picking something else. The second one is sponsorship. This is particularly true with .orgs. and some .nets, but a .com can also have sponsorship, and that is the source that you're looking at sponsored by an organization? And is that sponsor impartial or objective, or do they have a particular interest in one side? Really good examples, and I can't remember if it's discussed in this version of the text or not, but there are some websites out there. I used to be able to pull them up. They're not there anymore, but they were related to diabetes, the disease diabetes. And one of them was something like diabetesfacts.com, some real good sounding name. And you went to it and it presented all this discussion about diabetes and ways to treat it. And it presented 2 or 3 different ways to treat it. And it seems very objective, but when you got down to find out who the author was not necessarily someone who worked for a drug company, but at the bottom you could see when you got down into the nitty-gritty stuff that it was sponsored by one particular drug company. And when you went back up to what are ways to treat it, all of the options presented for treating it were related to that one drug company. None of the other drug companies in the world had their stuff up there as ways to treat it. So it was sort of disguised as facts. And in reality, it was, we'll use the term propaganda or a sales sheet for that one particular drug company. And so that website actually was sponsored by the drug company, even though it was buried down below. Because of truth or advertising laws, a lot of companies will put their information on there, but it'll be really obscure and you've got to go looking for it. But it is worth it to go find out, is this sponsored? And then the last thing you want to look at is recency. How old is the information? Stuff on the internet's been around a long time. There's a lot of articles that are up on the internet. They've been there a long time and nobody's gone back and updated them or revisited them or anything like that. So look for, usually under the authorship, it'll have when it was written, or look for the copyright, the little C in the circle, and what is the copyright information for what you're reading. And if it's 5, 6, 7 years old, you may still be able to use it, but you also want to find another site that has more recent information that supports this particular site. So it hasn't changed in the last 7, 8 years. So the last thing you want is information that's old and has been updated at other sources and you just didn't catch it when you did your research. You're wanting to do good, thorough, well-rounded research. So always look for those big 3. Authorship, who wrote it? Sponsorship, is somebody paying for this information to be up there? And how old is it? Those 3 things will guide you a great deal in how you find your sources that are credible and usable for your speeches. Good luck, and I'll see you in another quick tip.